Hello everyone, Fred here. In this installment of TPP Dynamite, I'm going to be talking about the one thing that gives me hope that the DCU's upcoming Clayface movie might actually be good after all. First things first though, if you haven't already, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I'm currently at just over 600 subscribers and I'm really trying to reach 1,000 as soon as possible. I post film, book, and TV series reviews. I do opinion pieces on entertainment, news, and affairs. I'm also an author of adult and young adult mystery novels. I recently released a new Hitchcockian short mystery called Gumbo Night. I'm quite pleased with this one. There's a link to it in my video description below, and I encourage you to check it out as well. With that in mind and without further ado, I'm going to just jump right into it. So as most of you know, most of my DCU videos of the recent past have been relatively mid to negative, and I'm going to go ahead right now and dissuade anyone who thinks that this is some sort of apology video of that misconception, because it is not. I make no apologies for what I've said because this is a review channel, because I'm going to tell the truth, and because the DCU itself has been relatively mid to negative from the front. The choice to hire James Gunn and Peter Safran was negative. Their running of the DCU has been negative. So have two of the DCU's projects in Peacemaker and Creature Commandos, while the third project, Superman, has been decidedly mid. That being said, I am beginning to have just the tiniest bit of hope that the fifth DCU project, James Watkins' Clayface, might actually be something truly worth watching. And the reason why I do feel that way largely has to do with some of the more recent press that's been coming out regarding that movie, specifically the fact that it's going to be based on and heavily inspired by the Batman the Animated Series episodes Feet of Clay Parts 1 and 2. In fact, Mike Flanagan, the writer who penned the movie's script, has gone on record and said not only that those episodes heavily inspired his screenplay, but also that watching them as a kid were what made him fall in love with the character of Clayface in the first place. Now, for the maybe two people out there who don't already know this, Batman the Animated Series is arguably the seminal Batman series of the past 30 or so years. Its influence on comic books, animated comic book adaptations, and even live action comic book adaptations cannot be overstated. One of the many areas wherein that series succeeded was creating very layered and complex and Shakespearean villains. And one of the major totems to that was the villain Clayface, who got an absolutely iconic origin in the two-part Feet of Clay special, a special that I really do think should have won an award for how beautifully dark and mature and real it was for a kid's TV show. So to hear that the DCU's Clayface movie script was directly based on that masterpiece does indeed cause me to have a little hope that this project may actually end up not being a complete disaster from a storytelling standpoint, and may actually end up being good after all. Because I really do think that Batman the Animated Series and the general masterpiece DC animated universe associated with and launched from that show offer near perfect templates for live action adaptations of many, if not most, DC Comics characters. In fact, and this is something of a miniature side tangent, for my money, David Zaslav would have been wise to hire Paul Dini, perhaps the greatest creative architect behind Batman the Animated Series and the rest of the DC animated universe, to run the creative efforts of the DCU instead of James Gunn. But I suspect that he'd never have had the imagination for that kind of move, because in Hollywood, it's long been understood that animation writers and comic book writers like Paul Dini are seen as second class to live action television and film writers, despite just how foolish and nonsensical that is when you consider that the comic books literally inspire the live action movie adaptations in the first place. But I digress. Anyway, I do want to add that I'm not saying for sure that this movie Clayface will be good, or even that I think it will, because we're still not out of the woods yet. Mike Flanagan did say that his script is based on the Feet of Clay episodes, but also said that after he turned over his script to the people above him at DC Studios and Warner Brothers Discovery, they started tweaking it and have made it into a different movie altogether. And even though some press releases that they've dropped after Mike Flanagan's comments tend to indicate that the movie will, regardless of anything else, still be retaining that overall feet of clay inspiration. Mike Flanagan's comments are enough to indicate that this movie may well become a victim of the same sort of infamous studio meddling that has been a death knell for quite a few otherwise good movies over the decades. Meanwhile, James Gunn still has not inspired that kind of faith in me with his DCU up until now, and even though he will not have a hand in Clayface, he'll definitely still have some involvement because it is a DCU production, even though he did not write it or direct it, and he'll probably still be passing along studio notes regarding that movie. Moreover, I still reserve my ongoing sense of wonder as to why we even need to see a friggin' Clayface project in the nascent DCU before we see projects about Wonder Woman or Batman or the other members of the actual Justice League, characters with actual baked-in fan bases of audiences who care about them. Nevertheless, seeing Mike Flanagan's comments and those additional press releases does have me optimistic enough that this movie might just actually turn out to be good. At any rate, you know the drill. That's just my opinion. I wanted to get it off my chest after hearing about Mike Flanagan's comments. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are your feelings more complex? Sound off in the comment section below. Meanwhile, if you like this video and made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe, ring that bell, and hey, follow me on social media as well. So long.